Welcome to the Healthusiasm Podcast, a panel discussion on behaviors, innovations, and trends in health and self-care. My name is Christophe Choquet. I'm the author of the Healthusiasm books and a professional keynote speaker on health, business, and technology. Now, if you're new to the Healthusiasm Podcast, you might wonder what Healthusiasm is all about. Well, Healthusiasm is the aspiration that we all have to be healthy and happy. And as a result of this, every company or organization is now more than ever focused on making their customers healthier and happier. And so every month, I discuss with a panel of experts the positive changes that are shaping our health and happiness. And for this discussion, we have three of your beloved experts in the panel. Calling in from Barcelona is our digital health connector, Aline Noiset.
Hola.
From Ghent, Belgium, but also calling in from Barcelona, human experience expert Mo Zouina.
Hola.
And last but not least, from Scotland, but living near Brighton, you've heard him before on episode 14 on voice tech and the vagus nerve, medical expert in digital innovation, Dr. Keith Grimes.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Very good.
Pretty good.
Looking forward to it because we have a great show coming up, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It is a special episode because it will be released on the 14th of February. So we thought, why not make it a Valentine special? And so here we are. Today's topics are love, sex, and relationships. But first, some healthusiasm, some positive changes that will impact our health and happiness. So tell me, Mo, what healthusiasm did you witness in the past month?
Well, I'm talking about a trend that is emerging right now. It exists for a while, but it's really been present right now. It's called dopamine fasting. We've known intermittent fasting. We've known metabolic flexibility. But today, dopamine fasting has become a popular practice. It's gaining traction, and particularly among tech enthusiasts and the Silicon Valley circles, who are very exposed to that. And the concept itself, it revolves around temporarily abstaining from activities that trigger the release of dopamine, the brain's feel-good neurotransmitter. And in this way, you try to reset the brain's reward system. You try to redefine what your baseline is. Now, the term dopamine fasting was coined by Dr. Cameron Seppa, a clinical psychologist, who introduced it and now has a book, also Dopamine Fast 2.0. And he suggests that dopamine fasting can help improve focus, reduce procrastination, and enhance creativity. Now, it's a bit nuanced. Some people think that our constant exposure to technology and the quick fix dopamine triggers from things like, we all know it, social media, video games, but also processed foods, can make us addicted, less focused, and unable to enjoy the simple things in life. And to combat this, they suggest taking a break from these activities. They say it can help us focus. It can help us less reliant on technology and experience true happiness. Now, it sounds like a new cool trend, but experts have their doubts. They say it's too simple. And once again, Christophe and Aline and Keith, as you know, we love shortcuts. And that's the problem, is that people also, as we discussed with the vagus nerve, people try to experiment with it, not really knowing the basics. And instead of a one-size-fits-all, some experts suggest targeting specific behaviors or addiction. So it needs a little bit of precision. And they also emphasize moderation and finding a real good balance between enjoying things and being mindful, because you can't stop a neurotransmitter in your brain from happening. That's impossible. So it's important to approach it with caution and extreme restriction, but it's also telling us that there's a new need to regulate these dopamine triggers. So I think we're going in the right direction here.
Yeah, indeed. And I do like this trend. I do agree that maybe it requires a little bit more context and detailed approach. But I like it because if you think about it, our social media is regulated, organized to make sure that you have these dopamine hits, right? The dopamine rushes, as they sometimes call it. Actually, there's a company in Silicon Valley which is called, I think it is Dopamine Machine, something like it, who is specialized in creating software and creating social media that actually make your dopamine rush, and so that you are more addicted to the technology. So I think it's a really good counterbalance in what we've seen in today's world. I'll stay with the dopamine a little bit. I'll go to gaming, which also very often is created with a sense of how can we make sure that people continue gaming. So the dopamine rushes are very much present in gaming. But here I go to Spain, where gamers were asked to play a Fortnite game in an entirely new world, or a new map as they call it, and it was called Lost in the World. But the thing was that the game seemed to have some bugs. I mean, the character was moving super slow, so their own character. It also repeated sentences. Suddenly they were in other places without knowing how they got there. It was suddenly night, it was suddenly day. There was a lot of things that weren't working that well. Sometimes when they were passing a window or a mirror, they couldn't really see themselves all too well. And that led to some really frustrating reactions by those gamers. They were filmed while they were, obviously they're streamers, so they were filming themselves while they were playing that game. And these frustrating reactions were very much amazing. But of course, the bugs I just mentioned, they're actually not bugs, because the game, in fact, was made that way. And it was made to replicate the reality of Alzheimer's patients. And so what they did was that with these authentic, frustrating reactions of the gamers, they created an awareness campaign. And they is the Spanish Association Against Alzheimer's. They use this to actually create some more awareness with youngsters, to even involve them in the fight against Alzheimer's and dementia. But the game can also be used, of course, still to experience Alzheimer's. And it's not the first time that we see that gaming is used to build awareness campaigns. I once saw one from Sanofi a while back, which was around eating better. Gamers don't always eat that well. And here Sanofi created a game, or actually they created a campaign which was called Ready Player Mom, which obviously refers to the ultra legendary book and movie Ready Player One. But what happened in the game was that the gamers were playing probably already for hours, and suddenly in Minecraft, in Roblox, or in Fortnite, suddenly they meet their moms. So their mom suddenly came into the game, like really like the figure as they know their mom, as an avatar. And the mom started talking like, you should be stopping, maybe not playing that much, maybe you should eat better, don't stay in your room to eat, maybe take care of your gut health. Obviously, Sanofi wanted to promote their probiotics in this way. But it was very nice that suddenly these gamers then looked into the screen and then, what, mom? And then they heard the voice of their mom talking, come on, guy, you need to eat better, etc. So a lovely, so two lovely examples actually about gaming and how we can create some awarenesses at something diseases or certain health behaviors. I think we stay with gaming with you, Aline. What health tips do you have for us?
Exactly. So I've got one health enthusiasm coming from Walt Disney, and especially their R&D divisions. Recently presented the HoloTile floor. So it's an omnidirectional treadmill ground made of small squares that can move around any person or objects. So the space can be quite small, and users can actually walk unlimited distances in any directions in that small floor. And several people can even be on the same floor, walking independently and without ever touching each other. So I thought it's actually thought initially for virtual and augmented reality experiences. So also like the gaming that we mentioned just now, but the applications are varied. So it can include like theater, dance, shows, etc. So it's really reinventing things. And I thought it was interesting to think about it from the healthcare perspective. Like you can think how you can do exercises at home, like making it more fun. And also if we think about rehabilitation centers, and also nursing homes, so to have the residents to keep them active, so like in a small space, several people on that small square. And also we can have them travel virtually through virtual reality, like with that technique. So I thought it was very interesting, and looking forward to seeing that in action.
Oh, lovely. And so what you said is that it can also be used to have maybe elderly walk more or do some exercises in nursing homes. Was that it?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely. I think because my next health enthusiasm comes close to moving and exercising, even in small spaces, actually. But at this time, it's not a nursing home; it's more in our own homes. Um, because I mean, in my second book, which is coming out pretty soon now, I talk about how homes are the biggest investment in our health. Right? It's the place where we spend most of our times anyway. And so we more and more we try to organize our homes and what we do in our homes in a specific way, so that it can have a positive impact on our health. Um, and so this is part of the health reason, right? We want to be healthier, we want to be happier, and in the place where we spend most time, we want to do something good for our health. And this is what we've been seeing definitely since COVID, because we spent so much time at home during COVID. And what you see is that a lot of real estate building companies, they say that more and more people want to add a gym into the house, or even at work, or whatsoever. Obviously, nobody or not many people can afford having a proper gym in their homes, and so because many people live in small apartments, right? But so there's obviously this one company that is specialized in providing all sorts of furniture for in our small spaces in our regular homes, and that is Ikea. And they are really focused on health and happiness, and many of the things that they're doing. And so here they really launched a new product line actually, which is called Dailin, which means daily in the accent of Smaland, which is the birthplace of IKEA. And this, what they did is they brought to market like 19 different versatile products that allows you to be working out at home every day. So it's really a whole line of products that allows you to work from home, which they didn't have at the moment. It's very smart. Apparently, it's adaptable. It's multifunctional. It also functions as a storage space. It's very beautiful and well designed, and so forth. So the idea behind it is that because we're so focused on our health, because we've spent so much time at home, we need to make sure that we can take care of our health and our happiness at home. And so that's why they created this Dailin product line. It's fun, it's easy, and it's a natural way to exercise, let's say, every day. I liked that health enthusiasm very much personally. But up to you, Kit. What do you have in store as a health enthusiasm for us?
Well, I suppose you can't let any conversation about innovation go past without coming back to AI in some form. But I thought I'd maybe take a slightly different take on this, because everyone's been very much enamored with what were called large language models. And then the idea that instead of just text, it would use images and sound with large multimodal models. But my health enthusiasm is large action models. This is generative AI that actually takes control of things for you. Now, before you get too scared of this, I'm going to come back and say that this was gently introduced and rather excitingly introduced to the world by a company called Rabbit during CES. And I saw this, and it was a keynote presentation of a small orange device, about half the size of a phone, that has some really nice, comfortable interfaces, an analog interface, and so on. And you essentially interact with it with a push to talk. You ask it to do things. Now, it connects to a large language model, so you can ask questions. In this case, Perplexity, which is a provider. But the thing that is really interesting, and I'm excited about, is that it can also control other applications for you. And that's where large action model comes from. They built something called Rabbit OS, and that allows this model to learn how humans interact with applications and machines. And through doing so at scale, does it for you. So think of robotic process automation, or RPA, but done automatically by an AI or a machine for you. Now, of course, it looked like a very cool toy, and instantly all the geeks out there, including myself, pre-ordered such a device, which will be coming at the end of March. But the interesting thing is, like, why am I excited about this from a health point of view, a health and wellness point of view? And I don't know about you, but one of the, I suppose, good things about seeing tech increases that people are getting more access to applications. But the downside is that we've got too many. My phone is absolutely chock-a-block with different apps that do small things that I have to move between. And the irony is that if you have health problems, the less healthy you are, the more apps you end up having, and it gets more and more complex. But on the clinician side, You have clinicians burning out in record numbers because of horrible user interfaces on EHRs. Imagine a large action model with a simple common interface in front of it that can do these things for you. And I think that is a real light at the end of a rather long tunnel, and a sort of solution to some of the things that we're seeing as we get better at implementing this. Maybe there's a way that we can use a common interface, our voice, and the growing use of generative AI to start helping us interact more easily with technology. And then that allows us to continue to implement it. So I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah, I can hear, and I've written down some notes as well. I think I like the idea. There's a lot of potential and a lot of upside in that large action model system. And actually, we will go now to the unusual ones. I always try to, at the end of the Health Enthusiasm, bring some unusual ones to you. And I have one here for Mo that is related to these large action models, I believe. Because also at CES and this year, LG launched something which they call, it's part of their bigger vision. It is an actual large action model, and it contributes to their to their big picture vision that they have as a company, which is zero labor home. So that's the vision of LG. And so my question is, what could they have done, Mo? What could they have brought or presented at CES that also is actually a large action model that supports their zero labor home vision?
What a challenge.
Yeah.
To try and find a hint of what that could be, the zero action model. So zero action would mean that you would just
zero
think
labor home. It is
zero labor home. Well,
the laziness you always talk about.
It's the laziness. I think you just have to think about it and it happens.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just it. There's no labor to do. Maybe it's a competitor for the Neuralink. Maybe it's something like that. But I think from the moment you think about it, it's done. Imagine what a mess that would be if an interface followed all our thoughts. Anyway, that's my hint.
Yeah, it's actually, I gave you a lot of hints too, right? So, yeah. So it's LG that they haven't given it a name yet, but it's an AI agent. It's a two-wheeled robot, but not bigger of a pint. So it's like the size of your hand, pretty much, and it just is a go-between, a bit like you were saying, Keith, between humans and their smart homes. And so it just roams around the house. It looks at everything, whether the windows is open, whether the humidity is good, whether the dog is doing well, whether the indoor air quality is good. So it has a lot of sensors in it. And it can actually then automatically adapt or optimize the situation at your home. And as you were saying, you don't need to actually verbalize it. You ask it, because the robot can actually also sense the emotion that a person is radiating. It can even analyze the facial expressions or the tone of voice, so that actually the way that that the house is set up can actually be optimized automatically.
Keith, that robot is going to be knackered in the evening.
It is. It's going to be zipping around. I'm just thinking, oh my word. It's interesting, actually. I mean, Amazon tried something not similar to this, but a few years ago they had a drone, didn't they? Had like a drone version of Alexa that would come around the house and act as a bridge too. I think it's interesting. I'm sort of thinking about this is that you could come home and you could diagnose the mood of the people in your family by whether the lights were on and what the temperature. If it was like icy cold in the hallway, you'd be like, oh dear, I'm not coming back to a happy place. Yeah, interesting stuff. I was also thinking, when Mo, you were talking about a Neuralink, I suppose the next step beyond that is that it can predict what you want before you even think it. But then you're starting to get into Black Mirror territory, I think.
Yeah. But we already talked about these kind of things. I think it was Mitsubishi who launched a ventilation or heating system that is also sensing the emotions in the room, etc. But I think what is nice here is that if you think about elderly wanting to live longer at home, it is a more active way of helping them, so that they don't need to think about everything anymore. So I think there's definitely some upside there. Let's go to Chicago with you, Aline, where we've seen the rise of 3 climate cafes in Chicago. What are climate cafes and what is their purpose, you think?
Maybe I'm thinking coffees from different places of the world,
Could
different
be.
tastes based on the climate there.
Oh yeah, I'm not quite sure what coffee they serve, but I'm not. It's not what I read about it anyway. Anybody else want to make a guess?
I'll have a guess. I suspect that what it is, it's a cafe where they serve produce that you would be expected to get in a world where the climate has changed. So it's looking forward. There's maybe global warming or climate change, and therefore we'd have certain foods available, not available, and only that is available on the menu.
Yeah, it could be, but again, it's not what I've read about it. I mean, I'm not quite sure whether they serve it that way, but I suppose they don't. Mo, you have a guess?
Maybe it's a place where people talk about the climate with a cup of coffee, or
Exactly.
it's kind of a virtual meeting place for people who are concerned with the same thing.
It's not a virtual; it's an actual place where people meet. Mainly because there's a lot of EcoAnxiety, as we call it, where a lot of people are very, they fear the future. They're a little bit sad because quite some nature has been lost or will be lost very soon. And so what we've seen is that almost half of the Americans between 16 and 25 are very worried or extremely worried about climate change. And even 1/3 of the population is alarmed by it. So there's a lot of impact that it generates because it impacts our mental health. And so indeed, in those climate cafes, you can talk about the climate change, about your anxieties, and there are mental health professionals available. So it's actually a meeting place where you can talk about the anxiety that you have for climate change.
But you can't take the car to go there.
Why not?
Well, not the fossil fueled one. Actually, Christophe, just yesterday I learnt a phrase that attached to this. I didn't realize there was a word for it. It's called solastalgia. Solastalgia, coined by Glenn Albrecht, an Australian philosopher, which is the sense of pain and distress caused by a sense of the change in the climate. So yeah, and that was a word that I just found out yesterday on social media when people were talking about some of the anxieties they saw seeing blossoms out of season.
Okay. Is it any different from EcoAnxiety or?
I think it's the same. It's just a slightly sort of different term.
Okay. Very good. Well, I'll say with you, Keith. We'll stay in Scotland, if you will. So maybe you might know this. What are synthetic memories and what could they mean for our health?
Well, today is the day after Burns Night. And so a synthetic memory for most Scots today will be something you say to explain why you didn't get home on time last night. Synthetic memories. Not sure. I suppose my first thought would be this might be something that you use in a mental health or wellness setting, that you construct a memory that helps you displace a painful or an upsetting memory from the past. So it could be something along those lines.
Yeah, it is something along those lines. And I think more specifically, it's to help people again with dementia or Alzheimer's. So what you do is that you try to create a visual representation of what they can remember by prompting an AI image generator. And so you will bring images that should look familiar in some way to an Alzheimer or a dementia patient, which then gives them a very good feeling that it's an enjoyable activity for them. And it even brings them back in touch again with their own identity, because that is one of the major issues, is that people don't know really well how to feel or who they are. And so by creating these synthetic memories, you can create a positive experience and you can actually do something active with Alzheimer patients. So obviously, I mean, the current models are still very biased. There's very American and English Western perspective. So I can imagine that in the south of America or even in the south of Europe, it might be difficult to to create those great images. But very promising in many ways, and a nice application of AI generators. Cool. Well, that's it for the health enthusiasms. Thank you for these. Now let's move to the next segment.